Imagine this. Every single day, ships carrying oil, electronics, food, cars and military equipment pass through one narrow sea route near India. That route, the Malacca Strait, handles nearly 1/4 of global trade and around 40% of global oil shipments. Now imagine India building a mega port right next to it. That is the Great Nicobar Project, and it has just received a major legal green signal from the National Green Tribunal, NGT. But this is not just about a port. This is about China, trade dominance, military positioning, and the future of the Indo-Pacific. Let's break it down. The project aims to transform Great Nicobar Island into a massive infrastructure and strategic hub. Key components: a deep-water international container transshipment terminal, a greenfield international airport, a new integrated township, power infrastructure, gas plus renewables, dual-use facilities for defense and civilian use. Estimated cost: 80,000 rupees minus 90,000 crore. Area involved: approximately 166 square kilometers. To put that in perspective, 90,000 crore rupees is roughly equal to building multiple metro systems. Close to 1% of India's annual GDP. Comparable to mega sovereign infrastructure bets in Southeast Asia. This is not a development project. This is a strategic national asset build-out. Great Nicobar sits just north of the Malacca Strait, the main maritime gateway between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific. If global trade were a highway, Malacca Strait is the toll booth. And Great Nicobar is India building a logistics and surveillance hub right next to it. From here, India can potentially monitor tankers going to East Asia, container traffic to Europe, military vessels entering the Indian Ocean. This location alone makes the project geopolitically priceless. China depends heavily on the Malacca Strait for energy imports from the Middle East, trade with Europe and Africa, industrial raw materials. This vulnerability is known as China's Malacca Dilemma. Over 80% of China's oil imports pass through this narrow corridor. Now compare strategic postures. China's Western Indian Ocean anchor is Djibouti, its first overseas military base. India's eastern anchor becomes Great Nicobar. One controls the western entry to the Indian Ocean. The other oversees the eastern gateway. This doesn't mean India blocks China. It means India sees everything. And in geopolitics, visibility equals leverage. Right now, India loses massive transshipment business to Singapore, Colombo, Port Klang. Singapore alone handles approximately 37 million TEUs annually. Colombo handles 7 to 8 million TEUs. Even if Great Nicobar captures just 5% of Singapore's volume, that means around 1.8 million containers a year. Which translates to $15 minus 20 billion worth of cargo value annually. Thousands of maritime and logistics jobs. Lower shipping cost for Indian exporters. Reduced dependency on foreign ports. This is not just infrastructure. This is trade sovereignty. India already operates INS BAS in the Andaman region. But Great Nicobar adds forward naval logistics hub, long-range maritime surveillance, anti-submarine monitoring, rapid air deployment, crisis response capability. Distance equals delay. Delay equals vulnerability. Great Nicobar cuts response time across the eastern Indian Ocean. That gives India a deterrence edge without firing a single shot. Investment: 80,000 rupees minus 90,000 crore. This is not meant to break even in 5 years. Strategic ports take 20 to 30 years to mature. Look at Singapore, Dubai's Jebel Ali, China's Shenzhen port system. All were loss-making initially. All became economic engines later. Great Nicobar is India's version of that bet. Now the uncomfortable part: over 130 square kilometers of forest land will be diverted, roughly the size of a mid-sized Indian city. Concerns include biodiversity loss, coral ecosystem damage, impact on tribal communities like the Shampan, coastal vulnerability. The NGT says safeguards are adequate. Critics say irreversible ecological damage is likely. This is the real dilemma: strategic power versus ecological cost. There is no free lunch in geopolitics. Big picture: the edge India gains. Before, dependent on foreign ports. Limited eastern maritime projection. Reactive posture. After, trade gateway control. Strategic maritime monitoring. Indo-Pacific military visibility. Counterweight to Chinese presence. This is not about aggression. It is about strategic preparedness. And preparedness is power. The Great Nicobar Project is not just about building a port. It is about trade sovereignty, maritime security, strategic signaling, Long-term economic positioning. If executed well, this becomes India's Singapore moment in the Bay of Bengal. If mismanaged, it becomes one of the most expensive missed opportunities in modern Indian history. The next decade will decide which